This is Anna Madsen, and you're listening to Local Outbreak.
Local Outbreak with IPMNation.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Local Outbreak on IPM Nation and 100.1 The Planet. This is Matt from IPM Nation, and we have taken a field trip this week. We are at Rocking Horse Studio. Is it studio or studios?
Singular Studio.
Singular Studio.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Pittsfield, New Hampshire, and that was the voice of Brian Coombs you just heard, a gentleman whom I've been hearing about for many years.
Only believe the good stuff, man.
As many of our guests we've had on the show over the years have recorded here, so it's wonderful to finally get to see the place. Brian gave me a tour, and it's very, very impressive here. And we also have with us Anna Madsen, whose music we're featuring tonight on the show. How are you, Anna?
Good, how are you?
Good. And I got to meet both of you for the first time at the Rock and Social put on by the great Rob Kleiner at, I'm blanking on the
Area 23.
Area 23. I know those guys, too, so I should not forget the name. But very impressive what you've done, Anna.
Thank
We
you.
were talking before we started about you had a song chart over in the UK.
I did. It was my rendition of O Come Emmanuel.
Yeah, that is awesome. And how long have you and Brian been working together?
We've been working together about 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
2
right.
years this month, actually.
Sweet.
Wow,
Our
okay.
anniversary is coming up.
Woo!
You've I mean you're pretty busy here, right, Brian? I mean, you record a lot of, like I said, I mean, it seems like a lot of people I've interviewed have recorded with you.
Yeah, we're very, very fortunate to have worked with so many talented people, and we're constantly amazed at how much talent there is here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
You know, New Hampshire is a small state, and we're fairly rural, and yet there is so much talent, and we are just fortunate when that talent comes in our door.
Right,
We
right.
just cherish every opportunity we get to work with so many talented people.
Yeah. Now, how did you and Anna connect? I mean, did Anna come to you? Because you're in a position where you're not out there looking for people to come record at this point, right? People just know people come to you.
Yeah, again, we're fortunate that people know where to find us if they're looking to record with us. So,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned the great Rob Kleiner, because he plays a small but very vital part in, us coming to know Anna. He had done a small feature on yourband.info on Anna. I think the summer prior to Anna and I meeting.
Oh, okay.
And, I instantly, fell in love with her voice. And, I liked, it was Rob's famous 5 questions.
Yeah.
And I loved Anna's sassy responses to his silly questions.
Yeah.
And there was also happened to be a really pretty picture of Anna that he posted on that too. So
Yeah.
Josh Kimball, my engineer here, he and I fell in love with everything that we saw and heard from Anna based on that interview with Rob Kleiner. And then, but at that point, Anna was working with somebody else, and it's kind of not cool to reach out to people when you know that they're actively working with another producer, because I know how special that relationship can be. So,
Yeah.
so I let it sit, and then, we got a call 5 or 6 months later. We got a call from Anna.
Yeah.
So I can let her take over the story about what made her call me. But,
Yeah.
in my mind, we knew her thanks to Rob.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Yeah.
So the producer that I was working with at the time, I was trading babysitting for studio time.
Oh.
And he got a different job in a different state, so they left, and I was looking to start a new relationship with someone else, or like find another place to record. But I purposely stayed away from Boston because when I first moved here, I was actually really nervous to drive in New England.
Really?
So
Where did you move here from?
I moved here from Utah. So the roads are a lot smaller here, and the roads are darker here than they are in Utah. Like there's more lights, and the roads
Interesting.
are wider.
Okay.
So this is also when I first moved here. This is kind of the first time I'd ever owned a car. So I was
Oh, no
doing
kidding.
more driving in New England than I'd ever really done in Utah anyway.
Yeah.
So long story short, I looked up studios that were in New Hampshire and closer to where I was, and I was really happy to find Rocking Horse Studio was only like an hour and a half away from me, and it was on back roads that I knew I could handle.
Yeah.
And not Massachusetts, because I wasn't ready to like venture down there anyway.
Right.
So so my fear of driving led me to more New Hampshire based studios, because when you first think of where to go, I thought maybe like the big city, Boston, but this was perfect, and I just found him on Google. So and then I called him and we set up an appointment, and the rest is history.
And that was 2 years ago, huh?
Yeah.
And you've got in fact, I'm holding it in my hand, Whisper by Anna Madsen, which is a full-length disc. And when is this out now, or is this coming out soon?
It comes out on March 3rd.
March 3rd. Okay. Very good. And so this was obviously all done here.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And Brian, you also play on it, correct?
I do, yeah. I play keyboards and some bass guitar on it and some percussion on it.
Yeah.
And it's, features quite a few of the people at work here at Rocking Horse Studio.
Okay. And Anna, here's everyone always hates this question, but how do you describe your sound? And your sound is unique. I mean,
Thank you.
The first song of yours that I ever heard was Palm Reader,
Mm-hmm.
and you said there's a new version on this one that's different than the one online.
Yes.
Or?
So before I answer your question, I'll just kind of preface my musical background.
Yeah.
The first thing that I put out from here was called Palm Reader, the EP, and then that turned into the full-length album Efflorescence. But Efflorescence had a lot of genres on it, and I wanted to solidify my sound more, and in doing so, I wanted to take some of the songs on Efflorescence that I felt like had commercial potential, and I had this conversation with Brian about how we wanted to kind of solidify more of a sound and a direction of where I was going, because the genres are kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So we took songs like Palm Reader and Black Dress and Devil's Garden, the three biggest ones that we changed, and made them more commercial. And we also made the production and the arrangements, I feel like, stronger. And so Palm Reader, the one that you heard, has been tweaked a little bit. It's still the same song, but it's I feel like the production and arrangement is stronger now. Stranger come, stranger come, the lady read my palm. I've got a line that reads forever. If you got love, come give me some. Stranger stay, stranger stay. I am exactly what you need. Are you brave enough to let me take the lead? One or two together, I'm just waiting for the day. That one I asked the Ouija board to send will come my way. Stranger come, the lady read my palm. I've got a line that reads forever. If you got love, come give me some. Stranger stay, stranger stay. I'm exactly what you need. Are you brave enough to let me take the lead? We finally found each other. The stars are now the shore. I myself a Libra and you a Scorpio. Stranger come, the lady read my palm. I've got a line that reads forever. If you got love, come give me some. Stranger stay, I'm exactly what you need. Are you brave enough to let me take the lead? Tears are running down my face, but I can't find you, so I'll wait. Sun and moon and stars rotate, but I will wait for you. I will wait for you. still my style, I suppose, since I went on a journey to figure out what I wanted my sound to be. I call it dark pop or ethereal pop. I guess another term would be like alternative. I feel like I'm under the umbrella of like Lana Del Rey, Imagine Dragons, or Halsey.
Yeah.
To name a
Taylor
few.
Swift's dark sister.
Yeah, like a dark pop version of Taylor Swift on some things.
Yeah.
But then I have very alternative songs on there, like Golden Room or Sumerian that are, and even Palm Reader, I guess, that are very unique to me. I've never really heard anyone write songs like that. But then there's other songs on the record that are definitely more pop and more mainstream. So yeah, I guess it'll be up to you as to what you think it might fall under. I feel like everyone has a different take from it. I've heard lots of different artists thrown at me when someone hears it. It just depends on people's musical background.
Yeah, it all comes down to the listener's perspective.
Yeah.
You know, because in England, a lot of people think she sounds like a young Kate Bush, which is a huge compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites, I think, because that's...
So they mentioned Kate Bush, and a couple of people have mentioned Enya, and
Florence and the Machine.
Florence and the Machine,
Yeah.
and so it all depends. I mean, I again, I remember my band back in the 80s. Everybody in England thought we sounded like a band called It Bites. So I remember one review in particular where they said, this band was obviously influenced by It Bites.
Right.
And I actually had to call the record company up and say, can you send me a copy of this It Bites band? Because I've never heard of them.
Right.
And we're obviously influenced by them.
That's funny.
So that's a classic example of where the listener's bias comes from what they grew up listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's cool, though, when you have a project where it's kind of open to that various interpretations, because a lot of what you hear on the radio is very easy to categorize, to say, okay, you know, this is punk, this is, you know, classic rock sounding, this is metal, whatever. So when you have something where you kind of go, geez, I'm not sure. Like when I asked you, how do you describe it, I had no idea what you were going to say, which is kind of cool, because a lot of times when I'm asking someone that question, I kind of know what they're going to say.
Right.
But so I think that's a mark that you have something
It's
truly
unique.
original and interesting. And what precipitated you? You know, you said going for a more commercial sound. Was that something you had always wanted to do? Was that something Brian kind of guided you into, or how did you?
Definitely not. So I guess I really love lots of different types of music. Excuse me. I grew up on musical theater and Disney movies, and my mom listened to country, and my dad listens to 80s rock. So I had a very unique musical upbringing, because a lot of people probably listen to the Beatles or like Brian over here, or like other classic people when I was growing up on like Hello Dolly and The Music Man and Thoroughly Modern Millie, like all these musicals and stuff. So you can kind of hear that a lot with my melodies, I think, on how I write melodies. It's almost tends to like veer more towards musical theater. But anyway, when I grew up and started venturing out on my own and figuring out what I liked, my favorite contemporary artists were like Lana Del Rey, and I do love Taylor Swift, but my favorite band is Imagine Dragons. And I think that's a good example to bring up, because I feel like their lyrics are really strong and they resonate with you, but they have really strong melodies, and they're commercial, but they're still alternative and aren't necessarily talking about just the basic stuff that you kind of hear on the radio, like maybe just boy meets girl, and some people do that well, and that's good for them. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I wanted to have I wanted to have commercial success, because I want to win a Grammy someday, and I do like pop culture and think it would be wonderful to have commercial success, but I didn't want to just become like a dime a dozen. I still wanted to retain my identity and like be unique enough to kind of have longevity, and maybe the same way that Lana Del Rey might have, or Taylor Swift, because I feel like what she does is different from what other people are doing in pop.
Sure.
But
and I also think, you know, when we released the Efflorescence record, so the versions of Devil's Garden, in particular Devil's Garden, and to some degree Black Dress, I thought there were strong melodies in there. I thought there were, you know, they could be good pop songs, and I mean that in the, you know, the most flattering. Pop songs is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's not easy writing a good pop tune, you know.
No.
Right.
But I thought maybe I've said this before, that maybe those two songs in particular they were just dressed in the wrong clothing. So the version on Efflorescence, between Anna's love of musical theater and drama and my background in prog rock, that led us to maybe overdress a song like Devil's Garden. It was kind of weighed down with really dramatic cellos and big organs, and it took us too long to get to the chorus. And, as much as I love prog rock, I love the Beatles and Brian Wilson and Crowded House and the art of melody. And I thought that those were getting lost in the arrangements. So those two songs, I think, in particular, Black Dress and Devil's Garden, really, really benefited from cutting away the excess.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add, too, like, when I thought about my career and my future, I wanted to be standing alongside like acts like Imagine Dragons and Lana Del Rey and like these other people that we hear about. Like, I wanted to reach a sizable audience and wanted to be able to like have that sort of success. So that was another reason why I chose to go down the route that I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, do you play on other people who record here? Do you also play on anyone else's?
I do when they ask. Yeah, I do, and I've played on quite a few. I played on Dusty Gray's CD. I played on the Pat and the Hats record and Tristan Omen's record.
Yeah.
Those are three of my favorites. Justin Cohn is another New Hampshire artist. So I enjoy that. I mean, the irony is I grew up as a bass player and did all my touring back in the day as a bass player. Yeah. And yet now everybody asks me to play keyboards.
No kidding. Well, you got a million of them.
So I always, did you notice? Yeah. So I always I loved the keyboard and, was fascinated with pianos and synthesizers and organs. So I started collecting those early on. And when my band first started, we actually had two keyboard players, me and another keyboard player. But as our band developed and we got better, I just didn't feel like I was strong enough as a keyboard player. So I became the bass player.
Yeah.
And it also helped streamline because we had two keyboard players and three guitar players, and we were always switching instruments, and it's hard to build momentum in a set when you're switching instruments every other song.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy playing on other people's stuff. So
yeah, very cool. And Anna, as far as the writing, do you write yourself everything or?
So I kind of write in a unique way. I have the full melodies and full lyrics ready to go that I present. And when I say that, like, I come in and I sing the entire song a cappella.
Oh, okay.
And like all the lyrics are finished. The song is like the melody's completely done. And then I present that to Brian, and I always have harmonies that I want to that I have already that I've thought of, because my harmonies are really important in my songwriting. They're not generic harmonies, like they're very important to the song.
Yeah.
And that's how I write. So those harmonies sometimes, or I guess they often, help with chord progressions and stuff. And then Brian helps me write the music underneath, and we worked together to figure out what's appropriate for the song. And almost every time I bring a song to him too, I have a very specific idea of the mood that I want the song to be, or the theme. For example, there's a song on there called If You Run, and I wanted it to be a tango. Or the song Sumerian, I'll call it my witchy love spell song. And for that one in particular, I brought like mood boards and had many examples of like certain instruments that I wanted and how I wanted to sound. Like there's like a scary violin, like a horror movie violin at the beginning and end, and like that was something that I wanted. And anyway, so on and so forth. But so then Brian goes in and does his magic underneath, and he makes sure that it fits the song, and then he adds like lots of really cool things, and we bring in musicians to play on it, and then that's that. So we kind of work in a backwards way than other people work. I don't know if I'll always write that way though. I had a lot of songs when I first came here. It was like 20 different songs that I had written.
Wow.
But I could definitely see myself in the future probably co-writing with people in the more traditional way, where they might have like
a chord
progression that I write over. I just I'm very heavy on lyrics, and I love telling stories. So how the song comes to be, I don't like it doesn't have to be the way I've been doing it. That's just that's how I started, because I didn't have a piano or anything else so I kind of just heard the melodies in my head and went from there.
In terms of you talked about, you hear the melodies in your head and whatnot, and you have specific harmonies that you want to try to do and whatnot. Is it difficult sometimes to communicate that, what it is? I mean, I know I've played in bands where, I'll have an idea and I'm trying to communicate it to the other guys in the band, and it's not coming out right. I'm trying to explain to them what I'm going for and whatnot. What you're doing is unique and it's complex, and I'm just wondering, is it ever difficult to kind of communicate or demonstrate what it is that you're trying to get to with a song?
I think Brian and I work together really well, and I feel like he understands where I'm coming from a lot, so I haven't had that problem working with him at all.
Yeah, that's good.
And I have been really thorough with, like, when I have an example, I'm not like, oh, that one song. I'll, like, bring it up on YouTube and, like, go to this part. This is what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Or I'll show him clips of a movie. Like, for example, I'll bring up If You Run again. I wanted it to be a tango, so I showed him El Tango de Roxanne, that whole clip from Moulin Rouge. I'm like, I wanted it to be, like, a dark tango. And along the way, when he's putting down the music and we're, writing the song, if there's anything that doesn't quite fit or not quite what I was thinking, I'll say something. And sometimes Brian will bring things to the table that I wasn't even thinking of before.
Yeah.
Golden Room is a good example of that. There's an operatic section in the middle of the song that I originally did not write, that sort of just happened. Our keyboard player,
that
I
was
believe,
Rick Black from my old band.
He wrote this middle musical part.
Pretty part.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and I'm like, this is really cool. And I originally thought about doing oohs over the top, and Brian suggested, well, can you sing higher than that?
Yeah.
Can you do like an opera thing? And I was like, I don't know, like I'll try. Like I love Phantom of the Opera. This is my Christine moment. So I'll give it a shot. And then it was really cool, and one of the coolest parts of the song. So that was something that we were kind of did on the fly. So I think it's just different for every song, and we're a good team, so it ends up working out.
Yeah, we're quite the machine now. I guess I would point to Anna's Witchy Love Spell song. That was early on in our process. We actually, the first couple of songs that we put together were Epitaph, which is on Efflorescence, and Palm Reader. Those were the first two, and we did those. It was the two of us and Joey Pirog, the bass player from the Four-Legged Faithful.
Okay,
who does a lot of work here. The three of us put those songs together, and then I remember Anna presenting us Sumerian, her Witchy Love Spell song.
Yeah.
And I remember Joey and I kind of looking at her like, what are you talking about? Right?
Yeah, I know. I was like, but guys.
But the other two had been so easy and so successful that even that early on in our working relationship with Anna, Joey and I both just kind of said, let's
I did that on purpose too.
Let's trust this girl's vision, and let's see where it leads us.
Yeah.
Because I knew Sumerian was going to be a tough one. There's a song by Lana Del Rey, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right this second, but it's very quirky, and even how she sings the lyrics, and it's almost like slam poetry the way she's saying it.
Yeah.
So that sort of inspired me to go out on a limb in writing Sumerian, because it's a little bit different as far as how even the vocals go, or how I'm doing the syncopation of the lyrics and everything. And it was kind of a quirky song, like it's like, because I wanted like tribal drums, because they're like hypnotic tribal drums, and then the horror violin, and like the ethereal ghosties, as we called them in the song, like to make it like this Halloween love spell song. I don't know, I think it's one of my favorite songs I've ever done. I love that song. I think it's great. It's very quirky, but I love it, and they were so awesome, and it turned out just as I had pictured it, if not better. So they were really good, just like going with me on that one.
Yeah, so from that point forward, that just proved to me, all right, Anna has an idea. It's definitely worth pursuing.
Yeah.
So we give it our all, and but like I say, she and I are on a roll now. We can just pump out tunes pretty quickly, and that's pretty satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You will never break my heart, tread softly or you'll fall apart. Moonstones hide under my tongue. A haunting spell escapes my lungs. Ring the warning, ring, ring the warning, ring, 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 ring. Dear, this love we shall crave. I won't be alone tonight. Sumerian orator, won't you laugh of my empty soul? Effluence and soul and heart, my mind games will make you start whispering sweet nothings. And do not let us fall apart. Sumerian orator, won't you laugh of my empty soul? Effluence and soul and heart, my mind games will make you start whispering sweet nothings. Do not let us fall apart. Won't you be my lover, hiding in this Indian summer, and the enemy in my eyes, crystal shine in the night sky. You can try to run away, my heart will never be afraid. Darkness is our inclination, stars are forming center stage. Cenarian inamorato, won't you laugh of my empty soul? Effluence and soul and heart, my mind aims to make you start whispering sweet nothings. And do not let us fall apart. Pale lullaby, cease and not hide until you listen to my plight. Darling, darling, come to me. Can I be your lady, please? Sumerian inamorato, won't you laugh of my empty soul? Effluence and soul and heart, my mind games will make you start whispering sweet nothings. Do not let us fall apart. Don't you ever break my heart.
Do you ever have ideas that they wind up after you and Brian are done with them, like just really very different than what you initially came up with, or
I wouldn't say on this record at
No.
all. Because I feel like he is really good at listening to me, and I think that's so important, like having a producer actually listen to you and
Yeah.
hear what you're saying and actually following through with what you're saying and being respectful of the vision. But then he obviously complements everything that I do, and he has lots of great ideas as well, so it ends up, like I keep saying, like we're a really good team. The only song I can think of that ended up not quite being the way maybe I'd originally pictured it, but it was better, was Fingerprints. It's the very
Oh,
last
yeah.
song on the record. Originally I had thought that it would just be like an acoustic thing and almost maybe Civil Warsy in the fact that it would just be like very haunting vocals with like a guitar. But then when we were laying down the chords for the song, Brian brought out, I don't know the name of the
Yeah, it was an old
keyboard.
Roland Juno 106
Oh.
synth.
So he
Yeah.
brought out the synth to lay down the chords just 'cause it
Just
was
so
easy,
Anna could
so we
know
hear
what the
them.
chords were, because there was one part we actually do that with Myron Kibbe on the guitar, and Myron and I actually put those chords together one day when Anna wasn't around, and there was something that wasn't. It was technically it was correct,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the chord that she wanted to hear under her melody.
Yeah.
So again, I said, well, I don't play guitar, Myron wasn't around. So I said, well, let me just put it down on and the Juno 106 is wonderful with its just warm synth pads, so that Anna would be able to hear the harmonic progression under her vocal. We could pinpoint what chord she didn't like, replace it, and show it to Myron again.
Yeah.
But as we were putting the keyboards down, both of us kind of said,
I liked it better.
We
And it
kinda like
both
this.
it both reminded us of the same song.
Oh,
the
wow.
Cyndi Lauper
Time After
Time.
Time.
After
Oh,
Time.
okay.
Cyndi
Yeah.
Lauper.
And
No kidding.
where I was like, Brian, I actually really like this. I like this better than the acoustic thing. So we decided to embrace the 80s vibe of that, and it's like totally full-on 80s pop song.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
very
right down to the
reminiscent
drum
of
machines.
Time
Yeah.
After Time, Cyndi Lauper, and I feel like it turned out better than I originally imagined. So it'll be interesting to see what the next record's going to be like, even in the writing process, because I feel like all my best songs are pretty much on this record. I might
Yeah.
have like a couple stragglers that might go on the next one, but for the most part, I would probably want to start writing about new things, because a lot of my other songs kind of have a similar content matter. So I kind of want to start more evolving as an artist and writing about
Yeah.
new things. So it'll be really interesting to see how the next batch of songs goes. But for this one, that's how this Whisper was written.
Always quiet, never loud. I took your silence as being proud. You told me you loved me, then you changed your mind. You convinced yourself that she was a better find. Did you ever love me? Well, you'll never see just how much you broke me down. I hope you can be happy now. A secret hatred that you had for me was spilling over your lips. I guess speaking evil's easy when you're longing for her kiss. Her fingerprints were on your skin, but I couldn't see them. How many promises did you break while tangled up in linens? You told me you loved me, then you changed your mind. You convinced yourself that she was a better find. Did you ever love me? Well, you'll never see just how much you broke me down. I hope your heart is happy now. I'll take my own fingerprints and brush them on a window. Maybe if I see them, I'll pretend that I am not so alone. But I won't say a word, not even a whisper, of how I told you that I loved you. Now I've changed my mind. All I want is peace, but I know that takes time. Did you ever love me? Well, you'll never see just how much you broke me down. I hope I can be happy now. You mistake my silence for being more. Said always and forever, always and forever.
How many, Brian, do you know offhand how many different keyboards are on this?
On the Whisper record,
Yeah.
well, look around.
Yeah.
Most of them in the studio or have found their way onto the record someplace. So I'd say it's probably close to 30 different keyboards have made appearances on the record. Yeah. I mean, you think we're sitting here in our control room here, and there are 20-something keyboards hidden around this control room. So
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
there are the
Yeah.
obvious ones that you can see, and then there
Right.
are
And then there's the
there's
hidden
like a
ones.
suitcase behind Anna over there
Oh,
that
no
has a
kidding.
keyboard in it. And
Wow.
little ones that are in these drawers, and
Yeah.
yeah. So if they're appropriate, we never want to overproduce.
Right.
Certainly when we were doing the first Pat and the Hats record, Pat and I kind of grew up with the similar musical background. So we were really good together and really bad together, because I'd say, hey, how about a harpsichord part? And he'd say, how about 2 harpsichord parts?
No kidding.
So, we had a lot of fun, but we had to, again, at one point, one or the other of us had to reel it back a little bit.
Yeah.
So Anna's really good at reeling back. If I start getting out of control,
Yeah.
I'll record a bunch of stuff, and then most of the time I'm pretty good at self-editing, and we'll say, no, we don't really need that. But there have been a couple of times where Anna said, yeah, that's a little too much, Bri. Let's thin out the herd a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's always right.
Thanks. I don't feel like that happens very often. Usually we're on the same page.
I agree.
The only thing I can think of off the top of my head was the If You Run song. There was and Myron played this amazing nylon guitar part. So I don't blame you for liking the really cool riff he
We
did
loved
at the
it.
end. But
Yeah.
I was like, it's a little much. We're trying to go more like if it was gonna be on the radio, and it's like this
Yeah.
big long nylon guitar solo, and I'm
Really?
like, maybe for
So
the
Myron was
extended version.
disappointed.
Yeah.
But Myron's
Aw.
great. He did a great job on everything.
You don't
so.
want to disappoint Myron.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, it's true. So I'm the bad
Myron
guy
never
on that one.
disappoints us.
Yeah.
So.
No, he's great. We adore
Um,
him.
He may be charming, but he's so Machiavellian. He may be lovely, but so is a rose with thorns. I can't help you if you won't see his illusion. I can only help you if you run. He may be stunning, like a breathtaking view, but let me tell you something, he's as cold as a winter storm. I can't help you if you won't see his illusion. I can only help you if you run. Run far away, run away from him. Run far away from the man with the wicked grin. Run far away, run away from him. You don't know where that man has been. I told you I would help you, but you have to leave his side. Every moment that you stay, a piece of you will die. I can't help you if you won't see his illusion. I can only help you if you run. Run far away, run away from him. Run far away from the man with the wicked grin. Run far away from him. You don't know where that man has been. I have a story, but it's not a fairy tale. I was a girl that chose to never run from hell. I stayed and I prayed. No other woman would ever feel this way. Take my word, be like a bird and fly off in the night. I'll tell you lies and tell you whys and make you feel alright. I can't help you if you won't see his illusion. I can only help you if you run. Run far away from him. Run far away from the man with the wicked grin. Run far away from him. You don't know where that man has been. I can only help you if you run.
How long have you been here, Brian? How long has Rocking Horse been here?
10.5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have another recording studio elsewhere, or is this the first one that you've opened?
Yeah, no, we had, before that, I had a pretty sophisticated home studio in Manchester.
Okay.
And actually, a lot of the equipment that you see in this control room was actually in my basement.
Yeah.
But that was an untenable situation because it was in a housing development off of Wellington Road.
Yep.
Mike Haddad from Channel 9 was my neighbor.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So, but what that meant, unfortunately, was on summer nights, Mike Haddad's bedroom window was facing my garage.
Yeah.
So every time we would have a late night session and the garage door would open, and even though people were respectful, they're coming out and they're opening doors and shutting
Yeah.
doors, and Mike never complained or said anything, but once it became a serious endeavor, my wife and I realized that we were going to have to move out to the country.
Yeah.
And, hence our arrival in Pittsfield. I had never even heard of Pittsfield
Yeah.
before we moved out here.
Yeah.
But here we are, and it's, it was 10 years in last June. It was
No kidding.
10 years, so.
Yeah. And who do you want to just mention some of the? I mean, we mentioned some of them, but some of the people you've recorded here who our listeners might know.
Sure. Yeah. So the big ones from the Concord area, Dusty Gray,
yeah.
and Pat and the Hats, and Brooks Young.
Yep.
And Joey Pirog and his band, the Four-Legged Faithful.
Yeah.
And Joey produced the first Tan Vampires album here, which I absolutely love. I wasn't really involved in that project, other than opening up the door and setting them up the first day.
Yeah.
Who am I forgetting? Justin Cohn, again, is somebody that we really love. Ryan Williamson, who was just recently nominated for a New England Music Award, which is exciting. And who else? Who am I forgetting? I mean, there's,
Stephanie Tonneson was recorded here. Shoot. I'm kind of blanking too. I think you've mentioned.
I mentioned Tristan, right? Did I mention Tristan Omen?
Oh, Tristan's great. Yeah, he's been on the show a bunch of times. Yeah.
So Tristan has done 2 records. Will Kindler, do you know Will?
Yeah.
So we did 2 records with Will Kindler.
Great.
Christian Koff is a guy from up in Maine that when we first started, Christian was one of the first projects that I did. After I became full-time.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, if every project is going to be this good, I should have gone full-time a lot sooner.
Right.
Actually, Christian and Will Kindler were 2 of my first ones after we opened. Steve Blunt is somebody that does children's music. I've actually been working with him since back in Manchester.
Oh, okay.
So Steve and I go back a long, long way. We've done a little bit of work with Alex Preston. A lot of the keyboards on his last record I did those here. So that's a bunch. I mean, like I say, it's been so many over the past 10 years. And, sometimes it's not even, it could be, somebody that doesn't have a career, but they come in and they do an absolutely gorgeous song.
Yeah.
Ashley Howard White comes to mind, that she's somebody my age, and she didn't have much confidence, and she was selling herself short. Oh, well, I don't know how good this song is. And she came up, and the guys and I thought it was one of the best songs we've ever heard in the studio.
Huh.
And she's not a professional singer-songwriter. She doesn't go out and play gigs. She just has these 1 or 2 songs, and she's got fantastic voice.
Yeah.
So, you never know where the next project that's going to inspire us comes from.
Right. It's funny you put it that way. It never occurred to me, but until now, but I guess doing what you do, you're in a unique position in that you're in a position to be inspired consistently, because you're constantly dealing with creative people who are creating music, and then of course you yourself are creating music, like with Anna, but you have a constant stream of inspiration in that sense.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, not only is it inspiration, once you start working with somebody like Tristan, and you realize the immensity of his talent, and you start talking to him about his background, right? So, like I mentioned, my background, in the 7th grade, I started listening to Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd, and Peter Gabriel era Genesis. And so I was listening to some pretty avant-garde prog rock stuff, right? But the idea of listening to Bob Dylan or Guy Clark or John Prine or any of the guys that people like Tristan and Will Kindler were listening to, that was foreign to me. If it was folky or country, that's just not where my head was at in my formative years.
Yeah.
But it's impossible to be in a room with somebody like Will Kindler or Tristan Omen and not appreciate their talent
Right.
and want to discover where their influences came. So I think it's absolutely, that's probably the best part of my job, is that I get to learn about other people's musical influences, and they become my musical influences. I can't,
Yeah.
I can't imagine a life now without knowing Guy Clark and John Prine. And I almost feel saddened that it took me this long to discover some of those.
Right.
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 But at the same time, I'll throw my stuff out to Anna or to Will or to Christian, and suddenly now Anna knows who Steve Hackett is.
Yeah.
She didn't know Steve Hackett growing up, and she thought Phil Collins was the guy from Tarzan.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my first exposure to Phil Collins as
Yeah,
a kid.
that's too bad.
So it works
that's
both
a cute
ways.
movie, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said Disney. Disney was a big one
That's
growing
true.
up.
You did say that. You did say that.
Yep.
So what's coming up for you, Anna? Yeah, Brian was telling me earlier you got some big stuff coming.
Yeah, so the biggest show that I have coming up right this second is, or the near future, is March 5th. It's my CD release show. It'll be at the Tupelo.
Excellent.
And then I have a really cool radio performance at the Cold River Radio
Cold
Show.
River Radio up in Glen, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And
In front
that's-
of a live audience.
Oh, great.
And that's on March
12th.
12th.
Yep.
And then I'll be playing at the Bull Run with Sarah Barrios. Sorry, there's a couple Sarahs. But she's amazing. I really enjoy her. And we'll be playing together on March 30th.
Excellent.
And then after that, I'll be jet setting to Europe for my European tour.
Wow. Now, how many dates are you doing in Europe?
That's tentative, I think, at this time.
Right
It's
right
like
now
about
it's
2
looking
weeks.
right now it's looking like 7 live shows and then a couple of recording sessions at Genesis's studio in Surrey.
Oh, no kidding.
Which is kind of cool. There's a project that actually came from England to record with us here.
Yeah.
And he loved working with us so much and loved Anna's voice so much that he said we'd stay in touch, and he'd say, "Oh, I've got a whole bunch of new songs, love to come back to America, but I can't, I just can't swing it right now." And I said, "Well, what if we came to you, because the band is going to be in England in April." And so we set aside Monday and Tuesday, just like here. Mondays and Tuesdays are pretty slow days and nights for performing.
Yeah.
So we're going to spend a Monday and a Tuesday recording where Genesis recorded all of their classic albums from the 80s, and where the Phil Collins drum sound came from.
Maybe you'll get to meet Phil Collins.
Maybe.
So I think we stand a better chance of meeting Mike Rutherford or Tony Banks.
Probably,
Because,
yeah.
Phil...
He's pretty reclusive these days.
Yeah, Phil is, well, he's out and about. He's touring, and I think he lives in Miami now. So
Oh, I didn't know he was touring.
yeah, it's his big comeback, actually. So
Oh, wow. I
yeah,
didn't even realize.
he's got a comeback tour happening,
Oh.
and yeah, it's actually been really cool to see. I mean, I had that conversation. Anthony Phillips he was the original guitar player in Genesis, and he plays on Anna's record.
Oh.
And he's become a friend of ours over the past year. And I had that conversation with him last year when I was over there about how I thought it was criminal that Phil had gotten such a bad rap, and the critics just love to hate him.
Yeah.
But it had already started to turn. So I said to Ant, it's kind of cool to see Phil Collins being cool again.
Right.
And Ant's response was, "Phil never stopped being cool." So
Hey, No Jacket Required is a great album.
it sure is.
No doubt
Yeah.
about it.
Yep, No Jacket Required, but Seriously is a much deeper album than
Yep.
people want to give him credit for. So I can understand why he might have been, annoyed or, just disappointed with the way he was treated.
Yeah.
He was overexposed,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was overexposed.
He can't play anymore, right? He just sings now?
Yeah, he sings, and
Isn't
his
it
son
arthritis?
is playing drums.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
his 16-year-old son is drumming
Oh, wow.
on this upcoming tour,
Oh,
which is pretty fascinating. Yeah, he had a pinched nerve and had to have back surgery.
Oh, okay.
And he was apparently, if you read his autobiography, he was in a pretty dark place a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Depression and some other issues. But he's come through it, and now rumor has it that after this Phil Collins tour, there may be another Genesis reunion tour, which
Yeah.
would be kind of cool.
Good.
So,
Good.
so who knows? We're going to be at the farm.
Yep.
And then we head off to Spain to do a few things. And then we'll go back to England to play the O2 in London, which will be
Wow.
a really cool show.
Very nice.
Be really cool.
And all of
Yeah.
that comes from the success that we had with Anna back in December.
Yeah.
There's some demand for people want to come out and see her, and that feels great.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And let's see. And Anna, where's the best place online? AnnaMadsenMusic.com?
Mhm.
Is that the best place for people to
Yep.
go to keep up with everything you're doing?
Yeah, everything they need to know is going to be on there. And if they want to buy my music, they can go to iTunes. It's on Spotify. It's on Amazon. And
Excellent.
you can buy hard copies from CD Baby or from my website.
Yeah.
And if you're in England, you can get it in store.
Yeah, that's right.
On
Yeah,
H&B.
it's the record is distributed everywhere in Europe through Universal via Nova distribution,
Yep.
or maybe I said that Nova via Universal distribution. So
Yeah.
that will be in all the shops as of March 3rd, as far as the rest of the world.
Excellent. Excellent. And of course, RockingHorseStudio.com if you want to check out Rocking Horse, and I suggest that you do because this is an amazing place.
Oh,
So,
thank you,
I'm
sir.
glad to finally, like I said, I've been hearing about it for so long, and thank you both. This has been wonderful,
Thanks for having
and
us.
I want the audience to know that these two people are very, very patient.
Oh,
Very
you're too hard
patient.
on yourself.
Very patient with my technical foibles, and I do appreciate it.
No
And for me, it
problem.
comes with the territory.
I know you can relate, but no, this has been great. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for coming.
Watch what happens.
It's Saturday night. Thunder screaming my name. The lights went out, and all I've got is a glow by the window pane. Tears are tracing out my shadow. I've got
Outbreak with IPMNation.com.